Hello and good evening, YouTube. This is going to be a quick and dirty video because I need to go to work in 20 minutes. So I'm going to just give you the quick and nasty on this one. So it might be a little sloppy and I apologize. Anyway, so I got a request to do, in the answers video to give my opinion on what would happen if Martin Truex Jr. had not been dumped unceremoniously out of Michael Waltrip Racing in 2013. Now, I was planning on making this a video, so now I'm going to do it. So, let's do it. So you got to remember, at 2013 Richmond, there was Clint Bowyer, Brian Vickers / Mark Martin, and Martin Truex Jr. driving. No, Mark Martin was at the 14 at this point, so it was Brian Vickers full time. So yes, Brian Vickers and Martin Truex Jr. I'm going to say that because I'm not going to pretend that Clint Bowyer has any morals, so I'm just going to say that Clint Bowyer does spin himself out, but this does not affect the results of the race. Ryan Newman goes on to win, and Jeff Gordon manages to point his way in, so there is no 13th driver in the chase. I feel like this would result in no penalty for Clint Bowyer. I feel like that's what would happen. There would be no fine for Clint Bowyer in this instance. And while it may be a very scrutinized move, just like Paul Menard the year before, there's no movements in the sponsorship sense, so Napa remains with MWR. So it's clear that even if Ryan Newman wins this race, he's still going to get bumped from Stuart Haas into the 31 regardless, because he won at Indy in 2013, I think, in the 39. So even with that win, he was still booted in favor of Harvick and Kurt in 2014. So, yep, getting things figured out on this end. So, with extra funding from Napa, MWR probably wouldn't have become like a second-tier team next to like a Richard Petty or Roush in 2014, even though Roush got wins, but that's not the point. So I'd say that they'd still be about a top 15, top 10 team. Not exactly a winning every race type team. So could Truex have gotten another win in 2014? Driving for Michael Waltrip Racing, I believe it's a possibility. Just like DEI before they folded. Truex was just getting his feet underneath him with DEI once the 2007 win came along. 2008 had a bit of a stumble, but then he was out of a ride in 2009. So, yeah. So yeah, just like a DEI, he got his feet underneath him at MWR, I think, because they had a pretty well gelling team. But honestly, the same thing would have happened to Vickers, I assume, because if MWR was still around, Vickers would still probably have ended up getting dumped out of the car because of his blood clots. So who would be driving the 55 in this instance? Well, some would think David Reagan. I don't really think it would be David Reagan. I think Brett Moffitt would have been given the bump in at least 2015, because in 2014 he was driving the developmental 66. Well, I'm thinking that Brett Moffitt would have been given the seat at least for 2015, and if he had failed to impress as much as he did last year, then Vickers would have been given it back in 2016. And maybe Brett Moffitt dumped entirely from the team or back to developmental car. Bowyer, on the other hand, he nearly won the 2012 championship, but he wasn't that great in 2013, and I don't think Spingate would have helped him, because the intense scrutiny would have meant that NASCAR would be looking far closer into like every error that team makes. So if they even tried to push the boundaries like even that much, like a huge slap was going to come on there, and I'd say that would be in the A race in 2014. That slap would be a good 50-point fine, $100,000 altogether from like the driver and the crew chief, and they'd be like, "That's for Richmond, that's for trying to manipulate things but failing." And I feel like that would have resulted in them being bumped from the 2014 chase. And then next year they come back in 2015, maybe making the chase again, who knows. But in 2016, I still see it, the driver lineup being Clint Bowyer in the 15, Brian Vickers in the 55, and Truex in the 56. As far as contending for the championships, probably not. Contending for wins, possibly. I could see Vickers and Truex contending for wins, and Bowyer would have to toe the line as well as he could probably from 2014 to 2015, but he could be back into winning shape by 2016. So that's what I think would happen to MWR. Now, the question really becomes, what of every other team? Because what would the 78 have to do with everything? Who would Chase Elliott be sponsored by, and where would he end up? Because if it hadn't been for Napa signing on with Chase, he probably would have ended up like Ryan Truex or Parker Kligerman, trying to scratch and claw their way to a truck ride instead of a fully funded JRM car. And so maybe, kind of like in Alex Bowman's sense, at this point in his career, like in 2016, he'd be getting the Alex Bowman treatment, part-time in the Xfinity Series, and that's it. And they'd be looking for someone else in 24 probably right now. Or they wouldn't even be looking for someone in a 24, because I feel like Jeff Gordon retiring had a lot to do with Chase Elliott coming up, which is really, honestly, the only reason that Casey Kane probably got his extension, is because Chase needed a place to go, and Jeff was like, "You know what, guys, fuck it, I'm done," and he left. Which means I'd still see Jeff Gordon in the driver's seat in 2016, driving that 24. Yeah, that's about what I see there. Chase, on the other hand, I honestly see him as he would be getting the Alex Bowman treatment. He would be in the 88 occasionally, and he'd impress. And he'd just be another Josh Berry case, like, wow, Josh Berry is such a good driver. He should have a full-time Xfinity Series ride. Oh, wait, pay drivers. That's right. Yeah. As far as Allgaier is concerned, he would, because of MWR not folding, Clint Bowyer would need nowhere to go. So Allgaier would still probably be in the 51 full-time. Might have a couple more top 10s. I don't know. But as far as Tony Stewart retiring, who would he pick up? Well, he might still pick up Bowyer, regardless of how this plays out. But I'd really like it to be Larson. Because Larson. But point is, the question becomes the 78. Now, I don't know if it's Truex and Cole Pearn meshing together perfectly that makes this team so powerful. I don't know what it is. But I honestly don't think any other driver could do it. I think it would have to be Truex, and if it wasn't Truex, they'd be a RPM level of speed in that 78 furniture row. That would be, like, even with Cole Pearn looks like a pretty decent crew chief. I think, like, if they got, I don't know who furniture row would end up with, honestly. Because the 78 used to have maybe Regan Smith. And if, like, the stars align and Chase Elliott still managed to get his full-time ride in the Xfinity Series at JRM, then Regan Smith would probably be the one to get the bump. So maybe back to the 78 for Regan Smith. I don't know about the 78. That's a question in itself, honestly. If Truex didn't go to the 78, where would they be now? But I'd say that is where we would be. We would have Jeff Gordon in the 24, Chase Elliott possibly only part-time in the Xfinity Series, 15 car at MWR, Clint Bowyer. 55 car at MWR, Ryan Vickers. 56 car at MWR, Martin Truex Jr. And who the hell knows in the 78, maybe Regan Smith. And Justin Allgaier in the Cup Series. So I'd say that is about where I'm going to leave this. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope this video wasn't too echoey because I never opened the door, so the echo chamber literally became a thing because I can just hear myself over here and over here and over here with all my sentences here. And yeah, so that was a video. I just wanted to prove to you that yes, I am still alive after yesterday's race, and this is going to be what I upload right now. So I hope you enjoyed, and this is the Kamikaze Games.